My biggest worry putting this list together was that there simply wasn't the heavy-hitting game of 2018 to earn the Game of the Year spot. Instead of an obvious winner standing above all else, I feel really conflicted about it. Despite me failing to put a top 10 together last year, Titanfall 2 was that star. In 2015, it was MGS5. This year, I can't say for sure, and maybe that's the best outcome here. With the high caliber of releases, I feel spoiled for choice, but also completely overwhelmed as I hadn't enough time to finish everything from this year. But hey, instead of talking about all the games I could or should have played, and instead of listing off 10 games that I scraped the barrel just to try and figure out, why don't I just list off the few games that I did play and really enjoy, and say hey, maybe give them a swing if they sound like they're up your street. Puyo Puyo Tetris. Puyo Puyo Tetris brought back the love of block breaking I haven't had since it helped me fail my biology class back in secondary school. The Switch release scratched the portable Tetris itch I've been waiting so long to get rid of, while introducing me to Puyo Puyo with a dumb but endearingly so story mode. The sheer amount of different modes, particularly the endurance one, made this the best Tetris game in years for me, and if you like Tetris and you want a portable version of it, the Switch version is just, it's the best one. Don't get the PS4 version, even if it's a little cheaper. Puyo Puyo Tetris is the best on Switch. For Honor. For Honor's concept is something akin to a budget PS2 game out of the Czech Republic meets an awful TV show where they pit warriors of a deadly variety into a fight to the death. But in execution, Ubisoft turned out a deep yet accessible fighting game that kept me coming back. One-on-one duels and team matches had their own challenges and opportunities to stomp or be stomped, and with it a constant feeling of unpredictability. Brawling in 2v2s alongside friends was just a ton of fun, and the hard comebacks you can dish out if you're quick on your feet and smart in your swings just make the fighting in that game so satisfying. Like most Ubisoft multiplayer games, coming back to it almost a year later was fantastic. The new game modes, maps and heroes are great additions, although like before, balance and connection issues return with peer-to-peer still being the game's biggest letdown. With the game starting its 5th season pretty soon, with that promise of dedicated servers, it's still a super strong contender if you're looking for something new and different. The Evil Within 2. The Evil Within 2 is the best survival horror game this year. Yes, it beats Resident Evil 7, and here's why. When I think of what RE7 did for the series, yes, it went back to the roots, and yes, it was a welcome change. But The Evil Within 2 is a game that continued that format past Resident Evil 4. It introduced this world that slowly bled in new enemies while teasing you into exploring places laden with traps and scares. The story is peppered with this highly self-aware writing that reminds you not everything in a horrific virtual world has to be so serious all the time. Maybe I'm a sucker for an underdog, but The Evil Within 2 easily outplayed Resident Evil 7 as this year's best Resident Evil. Zelda Breath of the Wild. For my first Zelda, Breath of the Wild may not have been the best first step to understanding the series. It's a game of constant discovery, with the world being your toolbox just as much as a sword, shield or bow can be. The shrines forced me to think unconventionally about the powers Link has and whether or not any particular method is the right one to begin with. I hate to pull the "this game lets you make your own fun" card, but it's never seeing what Breath of the Wild's world has in store for you, more so what you can do in it to reach your goals. You play by a rule set that begs to be bent to your will. There were these constant moments where I asked myself, could I do something that most games like this wouldn't allow? And sure enough, I could. I feel like a lot of open world games prop themselves up on the "if you can see that mountain, you can run to it" mantra. And my favourite thing about Zelda is it doesn't give a fuck how you get to that mountain as long as you see what's up in the top to begin with. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. PUBG is an obvious game to put on this list. What was a simple Arma mod turned multi-million selling hit burned through Steam, and with it every single video streaming site. The concept is so simple, and in playing it every match is different, every encounter is new. I came up with my own strategies, developed plans at the drop of a teammate, and worked my way to chicken dinner heaven. It keeps tension at an all-time high like no other game I've played since my early Counter-Strike days, and over 50 hours in it still hasn't lost its luster. You spend every waking second from the moment you land to your inevitable win or loss thinking, this next person is going to be the one that kills me. Winning chicken dinners comes with a feeling of enormous yet short-lived satisfaction, as all I want to do is go for round 2. Maybe it's that quick hit of adrenaline or the low time commitment versus other survival games, but PUBG is the precursor to a subgenre that's thrown developers into this frenzy of how to topple the king. And that fervour is unlike anything we've seen in years. Destiny 2. How do you follow up this generation's arguably most disappointing game, with a sequel that banks on the best parts of its modern competitors? Bungie swung for the fences with Destiny 2, bringing a decent campaign, strikes, and a solid raid alongside the top-notch gameplay, but in the end fell short of an endgame for me to care about. Doing my dailies and weeklies was fun in the first few weeks post-release, but the carrot on the stick was eaten whole by the end of a month. The new expansion shifted around parts of existing content and brought back old weapons in a disappointing yet not surprising way. Destiny 1's DLC was notorious for its minute incremental changes, and the Curse of Osiris has been no different. I don't doubt that they'll bring it around for the next expansion, but for what Destiny 2 did at its launch versus its predecessor, it stands very tall on my list. Prey. Let's get this out of the way. Prey is great, but it has serious issues. Its combat is trash, its enemies are low in variety, and the game is an overall clunkfest to play and fight in. It's not an overly fun game, but every part around it is fantastic. It feels so much less like a video game, and more of a proof of concept in how far a developer can take choice, and that's why I love it so much. Your agency in almost every facet of the story is determined by how you react to events in the world and the sides you take. For every choice, there's benefits and consequences from the world around you, but the best are the ones that throw the morality of your actions in your face. Arcane are known for their great level of player choice with Dishonored, but Prey takes it to the nth degree, and that shows in every single part of the game. If you're a story person, Prey is 1000% up your street. Just look past the flaws, it is well worth your time. Nier Automata. What's to say that hasn't already been said about Nier? It's a sublimely unique story drenched in charm, phenomenal music, and solid character action combat. Your first playthrough might have you scratching your head as to why anyone even cares about this game in the first place, but don't worry. The first time is a bare bones structure for the next 2 times you'll finish it, and that can sound like a hard sell, especially when the first playthrough is the longest, but stick with it. You'll be hit with these new mechanics, new combat options, new story twists, characters, everything. For nearly 40 hours, Nier has these constant surprises that makes it just genuinely worth playing. I don't want to talk about story, I don't want to talk about anything in this game outside of this video that I already feel like showing is spoilerish enough. Gravity Rush 2. If you told me Sony were going to actually allow a sequel to a Vita exclusive launch game, I'd have called you a person with reasonable predictions. Gravity Rush was a deeply flawed gem in the Vita's library, and the port to PS4 only made me more anxious that they might not fix the combat this time around. Instead, SIE Japan and Team Silent really tightened it up some, and slathered a stunning world with an astounding amount of variety in missions and challenges, alongside a story filled with lovable characters. Few games to me really sell the themes of adventure in their stories, but Gravity Rush 2's enormous world, splendid soundtrack, and strong balance of humour with tension had me gripped from start to finish pretty much all the way through. So 2017 had a lot of games I wish I had played or completed. Persona 5 and Assassin's Creed Origins are games I wish I had dedicated a little more time to actually beat, but hey, a lot of this year's releases got pushed back a little, so maybe I have some time. Until they're out, expect a few non-review type videos in the meantime, folks. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you in 2018 with some hot vids. God, why did I say that? Why did I say hot vids? That's awful. Fuck it, anyway. Good luck!